Hello and welcome to episode 47 of Every Rock Has a Story. In today's story, I'm going to tell you about the rock I collected with you in episode 45, using the suggestions I told you about making rock stories in episode 46. Today's rock I collected in Carlisle, Massachusetts at a place called Castle Rock. Now, Castle Rock is down a long, winding trail in the woods, and there's a great big rock outcrop in the distance. But I stopped before that because I noticed a really spectacular pink rock with great big crystals right in the trail, and I took a sample with my hammer. This is the sample that I collected, and it's a pretty color. It's got that pinkish color that I noticed, but it's also got some sparkling silver sparkles you can see there, and some really pretty deep red crystals like that guy right there you can see well. I also labeled it. I labeled it C1 for Carlisle, sample number 1. This rock interested me because I saw how this pink rock actually followed up the trail and cut right through the gray rocks that make up most of Castle Rock. So this rock, this pink one, kind of intruded into the other rocks that I could see in that area. The minerals here are important. That little deep red mineral there, that's a garnet, my favorite mineral, and you know that garnet is my favorite mineral if you watched episode 22, all about garnet. The silvery stuff is mica, muscovite mica. And you know about mica if you watched the episode called The Softest Mineral. And the other minerals are quartz. The pink color is feldspar. This is a special rock. This is an igneous rock called a pegmatite. A pegmatite. I've talked about that in a few other episodes as well. This pegmatite doesn't have the biggest crystals that I've ever seen, but they're pretty big. You can see those nice garnets, those silvery micas, and all that pale pink feldspar in there. And a pegmatite is interesting because of the very long history that it has. And you'll be surprised by all the different parts that this one rock from Carlisle, Massachusetts tells about its history. This rock story starts with an ancient ocean off the coast in what might have been called the Atlantic, but it was actually an ocean before the Atlantic Ocean. And deep in the bottom of that ocean, there was a mucky, thick mud that accumulated there from all the mud coming down from the ocean ooze and filling in the ocean floor. That clay-rich mud on the oceans then got caught up when Africa and the United States of North America came together and made a huge collision that pushed the rocks up to make great, huge mountains 400 million years ago. And then the sedimentary rocks from the old ocean, those muddy, muddy clays, got caught up in that mountain. So it used to be a sediment turned into a metamorphic rock. That sediment got squeezed and pushed and twisted and heated up and transformed into a new metamorphic rock that tells the story of that ancient continental collision. But this is not a metamorphic rock. This is an igneous rock called a pegmatite. And this rock is something that formed in the deepest, hottest roots of those ancient mountains right here in Massachusetts, mountains as big as the Himalaya are today. This was a part of that metamorphic rock that got so hot that it actually started to melt and make this igneous rock. So this rock started off as a sediment on the bottom of the ocean. It turned into a metamorphic rock in these huge mountains, and it got so hot that it started to melt to make an igneous rock. sometimes one rock can tell sedimentary, metamorphic, and igneous stories like this one. I know that this is a melted former sediment because of these minerals. That garnet and the mica there are loaded with aluminum. And that's just what you'd expect to find loaded up in those muddy clay sediments in the bottom of the ocean. So I use my chemistry and my mineral knowledge to know that this is a melted sediment. Now, I'm pretty sure that this igneous rock, this molten sediment at the bottom of the metamorphic pile on those ancient mountains, I'm pretty sure that it melted somewhere between 400 million years ago and 350 million years ago. Not exactly sure. I'm pretty sure because I've done some research, I've looked at some maps. But what excites me, what excites a person especially like me, are the minerals in this rock. If you watched episode 22, and especially if you watched episode 33, you know that we can use geochemistry in minerals like that garnet, and I can date exactly when that garnet crystallized, when this molten, melted sediment finally solidified into rock again. And there's another mineral in here. It's a mineral that I can't see with my eye, but I'm super sure it's in there. And that's a mineral called zircon. Zircon is one of the best minerals of all that you can date using geochemistry, just like we talked about in episode 33. In fact, did you know that one of the ingredients in mica and feldspar, an ingredient that we talked about in episode 4, is also an ingredient you can use as a clock to tell when this rock formed? That ingredient is potassium. So we can use geochemistry to test whether I'm right and whether this rock was molten 400 million years ago, 350 million years ago, or maybe a different time if I'm completely wrong. I might just do that test one of these days in my laboratory if I have an interested student. So that's the story of this rock for today. A story that starts as a sedimentary deposit on the bottom of an ancient ocean, that moves on to a continental collision, creating a metamorphic rock in ancient mountains right here in Massachusetts, and ending with superheating to a molten igneous rock called a pegmatite, recording the peak of the great mountains of the Acadian mountain belt about 350 to 400 million years ago. I hope you enjoyed this story from a rock I collected right here at home with you. See you in my next episode. Bye-bye.